Hello, friends. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and his team are working with the factor of Donald Trump. Just as they understand politics and just as they can implement this policy. Yesterday, negotiations took place in Saudi Arabia between the US and Ukrainian delegations. And as of today, we can already draw certain conclusions after these negotiations. Ukraine fully accepts the rules set by the US. Some say that this conclusion is absolutely not original and certainly not sensational. Ukraine simply had no other options than to accept the rules of the game prescribed by the administration of US President Donald Trump, because Ukraine, it depends financially and militarily on the US. It is true, we are financially and militarily dependent on the US, but I argue that the option proposed by Donald Trump is not the only option for us. We could also propose our own option, and not just to the US, but to the world. Moreover, we could achieve that the United States would act according to our option. That the United States acted according to our option, I won't even say that they would play our game, but we could have made it so that the United States acted according to our rules and our option. To do this, it was necessary to timely distance ourselves from the politics, the international politics of the United States. This should have been done somewhere in mid-November of last year, 2024, when the intentions of US President Donald Trump became absolutely obvious and clear. He had not yet taken office, had not yet come to the inauguration intentions to all public diplomacy with the ruler of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. As soon as we became aware of this, we needed to distance ourselves from the international politics of the US and propose our own option. Moreover, this option, it wouldn't have damaged our relationship with our strategic partner, the United States. There wouldn't have been any scandals. There would have been no need to apologize, to humiliate ourselves, or to do any of that. We just needed to do everything on time and correctly. Reverences. We just needed to do everything on time and correctly. So, what needed to be done then? It's very simple and calm to say that we respect you very much, the United States, and peaceful initiatives. And we believe that Donald Trump has the right to achieve peace and end the bloodshed immediately. And without any moralizing, to say that the United States can engage in public negotiations, resort to public diplomacy with an international criminal. Well, of course, we shouldn't have said that Putin is an international criminal. And the United States can talk to the ruler of Russia. As soon as Donald Trump reaches an agreement with Putin regarding a ceasefire, we will immediately hear this and feel it ourselves. We will see that no military actions are being carried out anymore. And after that, we will consider the proposal for a ceasefire. Given the significant influence Donald Trump had on President Zelensky, it is easy to predict that, obviously, Ukraine would agree to a ceasefire. And then we would achieve a real ceasefire. Real, not virtual. What's happening right now? What's happening right now is the following. It's obvious that Volodymyr Zelensky, considering his understanding of politics and the possibilities for implementation, decided to save face for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a guarantor of his campaign promises to instantly, boydam and immediately stop the Russian-Ukrainian war and show how strong, and powerful he is. A world leader, and Donald Trump had no other option but to appeal to the weaker side, to Ukraine, and to obligate Ukraine to publicly say that we are ready for a ceasefire. We no longer seek satisfaction. We are not there. A country that adheres to international law and is ready to stop the war against the weaker side. What model is this generally happening under? Now, all this talk about ending the war and about a truce in the United States, probably, given the the peculiarity of Donald Trump, they have created such an interesting model. For some reason, they believe that the United States are the parents of Russia and the parents of Ukraine. And they want to reconcile who are fighting among themselves. But there is an older child, there is a younger child, there is a beloved child, there is a child unfavored. And so for an unloved child, for a weaker child, for a guilty child, a whip is offered, sanctions are proposed, punishment offered, deprive, stop any military aid and intelligence reports. And for the more favored child and the older child, on the contrary, a carrot is offered. Storage is being proposed. Encouragement. The United States of America offers to whitewash the reputation of the Russian Federation, to propose involving Russia in some international relations, even to introduce it into the G20 or bring it back into the G8. No longer the G7, but the G8. And here, to stretch it out. A diplomatic hand, if I may say so. And for Russia, encouragement is offered, while for Ukraine, on the contrary, sanctions are proposed. A carrot for Putin and a whip for Zelensky. This, of course, may be ineffective, but the US forgets that they are not the parents of Russia and Ukraine. And Russia and Ukraine are not children. The United States of America, not even close. These are representatives of a fundamentally different civilization, and they have their own relationships. Moreover, they themselves are the parents of this civilization. East Slavic and some other Eurasian. Ukraine and Russia are their own parents. Trump, Vance, and Rubio are not the parents. Neither Ukraine, nor especially the Russian Federation. Of course, none of this is sticking and none of it is working. And it will never work. So, when will real problems start? For some reason, everyone thinks that real problems will start after the ball is in play. Putin feels, and he will take and refuse Ukraine's willingness to stop some kind of military actions on water and in the air. No, that's not a problem. The problem will start when Vladimir Putin suddenly agrees to this proposal. Why is there a problem? Because for some reason, both here and in the world, people think, including Donald Trump, that after the ceasefire, peace will definitely follow. That a ceasefire is a precursor to peace. Well, a ceasefire can be a precursor to war specifically, a great war, specifically a Third World War. That Donald Trump is already afraid of. The fact is that politics is not, it's just nature and not the elements. It's metaphysics. It's only in nature. After dawn comes the day. But it can also be the case, by the way, that in nature there are instances where after a calm period, a storm comes, a great storm, a grave storm is coming. Storm, great storm. And Vladimir Putin, ruler of Russia, if he is smart and seeks to order everyone, he will, of course, agree to Donald Trump's offer. Agree to a ceasefire in order to later start a war. All we can do is hope for Vladimir Putin's foolishness. Only Vladimir Putin's stupidity can save him. The world from World War III, the foolishness of Vladimir Putin, while Volodymyr Zelensky is saving Donald Trump's face. So, oh well, Vladimir Putin's foolishness might save the world from World War III. How events will unfold, no one knows, no one can say, but it turns out to be quite complicated. Now I want to say a few more words about the absence of cards, or the absence of Trump cards, which he speaks of Donald Trump. I absolutely disagree that Ukraine has no cards. If Ukraine had no cards, then the United States wouldn't be wasting time on Ukraine. Just given Donald Trump's worldview and behavior, which is just bullheaded, he wouldn't be wasting time in sending delegations to Saudi Arabia. It's obvious that Ukraine has cards. Nothing can happen at all without Ukraine. At the very least, the first point is that Donald Trump can't even save face. The first task that Donald Trump is facing right now is to at least save face and somehow get out of this game he's gotten himself into. The second task is to achieve some sort of ceasefire. The third task is to achieve a freeze. It's important to understand that there's a difference between freezing a war and a ceasefire. A freeze is a serious process. And theoretically, it can thaw out at some point. But as a rule, thawing happens when it's a controlled process. Something always thaws out, it's under control, and that's already safer. It's important to understand that sometimes a freeze can end in a die-off. Everything will die off in such a way that everyone will forget about it all. And they will continue to live their lives. So Donald Trump is currently at some sort of embryonic stage of tasks, initial tasks, let's say, just trying to save his face. I think that's where it all ends. Now, regarding the victorious relations, there have been some significant shifts and so on. There haven't been any major shifts, and for Ukraine, even less has happened because our military aid was taken away, and then supposedly it will be returned. It's not a fact that it will be returned. If it gets returned, then God willing, at least half of it. It's important to understand what have we managed to achieve. So, no ceasefire for 30 days regarding water and air has been achieved. For now, Ukraine has agreed to the proposal from the United States. What has been achieved? This is a truce. Let's hope that, at least, a 30-day ceasefire between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky. Let's hope that during these 30 days, they won't be throwing mud at each other. Political filth. Here, with the filth. So, a ceasefire, it's been achieved. But it's been achieved between Zelensky and Trump. So far, the ceasefire on the front is still in place. And it's too early to talk about it. Perhaps, what is the only result that this can be more noted? Zelensky helped Trump save face and say what he wanted to hear from him. Well, of course, it's a satisfaction for Donald Trump, his ego. They were pleased. So, the vassal demonstrated humility to the suzerain. That's it. That's everything that happened. Well, here are the conclusions and results, as follows, in summary and key points. Of yesterday's negotiations in Saudi Jeddah. I'll wrap up this blog here. Thank you all for your attention and for supporting the channel. Well then, until our next meetings,